In the dim light of an early morning, Sarah Johnson sat at the small, round table in her modest kitchen, her fingers tracing the edges of the bills that lay piled in front of her. The sun filtered through the lace curtains, casting a soft glow over the room, but it did little to lift the heaviness that clung to her heart. The kitchen, once filled with laughter and warmth, now echoed with silence, interrupted only by the occasional sound of her children, Lucy and Ethan, playing quietly in the living room. "Mommy, look at this!" Lucy's voice rang out, breaking Sarah's trance. Turning her head, she caught a glimpse of her 7-year-old daughter, her blonde curls bouncing as she held up a crayon-drawn picture of a house surrounded by flowers. Ethan, just 4 years old, was sprawled on the floor nearby, focused intently on assembling a colorful puzzle. Their innocence was a sharp reminder of the life Sarah had lost, and the weight of her late husband's death felt as heavy as ever. "That's beautiful, sweetheart," Sarah managed to say, forcing a smile. She felt a pang of guilt for not being able to provide them with more than just a roof over their heads. The bills before her, each marked with bright red ink, seemed to mock her. Every time she thought she was making progress, another expense would rear its head. "What's wrong, Mommy?" Lucy asked, her bright blue eyes searching her mother's face with concern. "Nothing, honey. Just thinking about some grown-up stuff," Sarah replied, hoping to brush off her daughter's worry. "Can we go to the park later?" Ethan piped up, his small hands clutching a piece of the puzzle triumphantly. "Of course we can," Sarah said, her heart aching at the thought of how little she could give them. A fleeting memory of her husband, enthusiastically taking the kids to the park, flashed through her mind. It had been one of those simple joys that now felt so distant, so out of reach. After a few more moments of her children's chatter, Sarah returned her focus to the bills, her fingers trembling slightly as she picked up the most threatening one. A final notice from the electricity company loomed large, and her breath hitched in her throat. "I'll figure something out," she whispered to herself, swallowing hard. With a determined exhale, Sarah gathered the bills and shoved them into a drawer, closing it with a bit more force than necessary. She needed fresh air, a break from the suffocating worry that filled her kitchen. "Hey, you two, I'll be right back. Just going to take out the trash," she called, walking toward the back door. She stepped outside, the crisp air hitting her like a wave, refreshing yet harsh. The landfill was just a short walk away, a place she tried to avoid. But today, it was unavoidable. The trash needed to go. As she walked towards the dumpster, her mind raced with thoughts of what she could do to pull herself out of this financial hole. As she reached the dumpster, Sarah glanced around, half-heartedly hoping to find something that might be of use. The smell of refuse was overwhelming, but her eyes caught sight of something unusual peeking out from a heap of garbage. Curiosity piqued. She stepped closer, her heart racing as she brushed aside some discarded boxes and plastic bags. There, half hidden under a pile of debris, lay a luxurious rug, its intricate patterns and rich colors, vibrant even in the dreary surroundings. It looked out of place, like a piece of art in a forgotten gallery. "Where did you come from?" she murmured, kneeling down to examine it closer. The rug was larger than anything she had ever owned, and the craftsmanship was evident. She could hardly believe it had ended up here, in a landfill. With a glance over her shoulder, ensuring no one was watching, Sarah's mind raced with possibilities. "Maybe I can clean it up and sell it," she thought. It was a desperate idea, but that rug could represent a glimmer of hope, a chance to ease the burden she felt pressing down on her shoulders. Straining against the weight of the debris, she pulled the rug free, her heart pounding with a mix of excitement and anxiety. "What if someone sees me?" she worried, but the thought of the bills waiting for her back home spurred her on. She wrapped the rug around herself like a cape, feeling its softness against her skin as she made her way back to the house, her heart racing with the thrill of discovery. Upon entering her home, she carefully laid the rug on the living room floor, taking a moment to admire its beauty. The intricate designs seemed to tell a story, each swirl and curve promising a history she couldn't quite grasp. "Mommy, look at the pretty carpet," Lucy exclaimed, her eyes wide with wonder as she approached the new addition to their home. "Isn't it beautiful?" Sarah replied, her voice barely above a whisper, as she knelt beside her daughter. Ethan waddled over, his fingers brushing against the fabric. "Can we keep it?" he asked, his innocent face beaming with joy. I think so," Sarah said, her mind racing. "But first, we need to clean it up. It's a little dirty." As she bent down to examine the rug more closely, she noticed an unusual emblem stitched into the fabric. It was a symbol she didn't recognize. Intricate, almost regal. Her heart skipped a beat. What if this rug was worth something? "What do you think, Lucy?" she asked, trying to keep her excitement contained. "It's like magic," Lucy squealed, spinning around in delight. "Can we make it sparkle?" "Absolutely," Sarah said, feeling a tiny spark of hope ignite within her. Maybe this rug could be the turning point she so desperately needed. As she began to clean it, she felt an unfamiliar sense of purpose wash over her. The mundane tasks of daily life faded away, replaced with the promise of something new. The rug was more than just an object. It was a symbol of possibility, a chance for her to reclaim some control over her life. But as she scrubbed, her mind wandered. Where had it come from? Who had owned it before? The emblem intrigued her, and she wondered if it was tied to a story much greater than her own. "Mommy, can we go to the park now?" Ethan tugged at her shirt, pulling her back to the present. "Of course, buddy," she said, a smile breaking across her face. "Let's finish up here first, and then we'll go." As they worked together, Sarah felt a warmth spread through her chest. Perhaps this was the start of something new, something that could change their lives for the better. The day stretched out before her, filled with possibilities as she pondered the journey that lay ahead, unaware of the secrets that the rug held, secrets that would soon intertwine with her own. As the sun dipped low in the sky, casting long shadows across the quaint little town of Maplewood, Sarah stood outside Mr. Thompson's antique shop, clutching the luxurious Persian rug under her arm. The vibrant colors and intricate patterns seemed to dance in the fading light, and for a moment, she felt like a princess holding a treasure. But the weight of reality quickly settled back in, and she took a deep breath, steeling herself for what lay ahead. Entering the shop, the musty scent of aged wood and polished brass filled her nostrils. The walls were lined with curiosities, old clocks ticking softly, glass cases filled with delicate porcelain, and paintings that whispered stories of the past. Mr. Thompson, a portly man with spectacles perched on the edge of his nose, looked up from behind the counter. His eyes widened as they fell on the rug. "Ah, what have we here?" he said, his voice a mixture of curiosity and excitement as he made his way towards her. "That is quite the find, I must say." "It was just lying in the landfill," Sarah replied, a hint of embarrassment creeping into her voice. "I thought it might have some value." Mr. Thompson gently unfurled the rug, his fingers gliding over the fabric as he examined it. His expression shifted from casual interest to astonishment. "This isn't just any rug, my dear. This is a rare Persian piece, worth thousands, I'd wager." Sarah's heart raced. She had hoped for some good news, but this felt like a dream. "How much would you give me for it?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "I could offer you a couple of hundred up front, but—" He paused, looking at her with a mix of sympathy and shrewdness. "If you're willing to let me sell it, I could get you a much higher price. You could be looking at a few thousand, depending on the buyer." Her mind raced. A couple of $100 would help with groceries and bills, but the idea of thousands sent a thrill through her. "I need the money now, Mr. Thompson. I can't wait for a sale." "I understand," he replied, rubbing his chin thoughtfully. "But consider this. What you have in your hands could change your life. Are you sure you want to part with it so quickly?" Sarah looked down at the rug, the intricate patterns swirling before her eyes. It wasn't just a rug, it was a symbol of hope, a chance to pull her family out of the financial hole they had been digging for years. I'll take the upfront offer," she said reluctantly, her heart heavy with the decision. Mr. Thompson nodded, reaching for his wallet. "Very well. Here you go, my dear. But remember, you might be selling a treasure." As she left the shop, the sun had completely set, and the streetlights flickered to life. Sarah clutched the cash tightly in her hand, feeling a mix of triumph and loss. She could already see the bills she would pay, the groceries she could buy, but a nagging voice whispered that she had let slip away something more valuable than money. Meanwhile, In a sprawling mansion on the outskirts of town, Charles Montgomery paced back and forth in his dimly lit study, his face set in a scowl. The disappearance of the rug was more than just a loss of property. It threatened to unravel the carefully constructed facade of his life. He had hosted lavish parties and boasted about his wealth, and now this, a simple rug gone missing, could expose cracks in his polished exterior. "Have you checked with the staff?" he demanded of his assistant Claire, who stood nervously at the door. Her eyes darted around the room, avoiding his piercing gaze. "Yes, Mr. Montgomery," she replied, her voice trembling slightly. "They all say they haven't seen it. I've also reached out to the local antique shops. No one has reported it yet." "Find it, Claire. I don't care how, but I need that rug back. It was meant for my brother, and its absence is a scandal waiting to happen," he snapped, frustration boiling over. "Of course, sir. I'll do everything I can," Claire responded, her heart racing at the intensity of his command. She could sense the desperation in his tone, and it made her uneasy. As she turned to leave, Charles added, "And if you find anyone who's seen it, offer them a reward. I want it back, and I want it back now." Claire nodded, her mind racing with the implications of his words. The Montgomery family was known for their wealth, and a reward could entice the right person to come forward. But she also felt the weight of the secrets that lingered in the Montgomery household, secrets that could resurface like ghosts if the wrong person got involved. Back at home, Sarah sat at the kitchen table, the soft glow of a lamp illuminating her face as she counted the cash she had just received. Lucy and Ethan were in their rooms, and for the first time in weeks, she felt a flicker of hope. She could pay off some bills and perhaps even get Lucy a new pair of shoes for school. But as she stared at the money, thoughts of the rug haunted her. What if it was worth more? What if she had just let go of a chance to change their lives forever? Her phone buzzed, pulling her from her thoughts. It was an unknown number, but curiosity got the better of her. She answered, her heart pounding. "Hello? Is this Sarah Johnson?" a smooth voice asked. "Yes. Who is this?" "My name is John. I'm the assistant to Mr. Charles Montgomery. I believe you have something of great importance that belongs to him." Her pulse quickened. "You mean the rug?" "Yes, the rug. We're offering a reward for its return, and I'd like to discuss this with you. Mr. Montgomery is quite eager to have it back." Sarah hesitated, feeling a rush of conflicting emotions. The prospect of a reward was tempting, but so was the thrill of having something that belonged to someone so powerful. "What kind of reward?" she asked, keeping her voice steady. "I can assure you it will be generous. Just a moment of your time, and you could have a substantial sum to help your family," John said. She felt a spark of excitement mixed with anxiety. "I'll think about it," she replied, her mind racing. "Please do. Mr. Montgomery values his possessions, and this rug is particularly special to him. I'll be in touch." As the call ended, Sarah sat back in her chair, the weight of the decision pressing down on her. Returning the rug could mean a significant reward, a chance to finally alleviate some of her burdens. But it also felt like giving up a part of herself, a part that had clung to the hope of a better life. The walls of her modest home seemed to close in around her, and in that moment, Sarah realized she had a choice to make. Surrender the rug and its potential for wealth, or hold on to it and face the unknown consequences that could follow. Each path held its own promises and perils, and she had to decide which one she was willing to take. The rug had already changed her life in ways she couldn't yet comprehend, and now it was time to decide how far she was willing to go for the chance at a new beginning. As dawn broke over the quiet town, Sarah Johnson sat in her small kitchen, the remnants of a sleepless night etched on her face. The rug, still wrapped in a delicate layer of uncertainty, lay in the corner of the room, a stark contrast to the functional but worn furniture surrounding it. The promise it held was intoxicating, yet the thought of returning it to its rightful owner gnawed at her. She could almost hear the whispering voices of her late husband and the children, Lucy and Ethan, urging her to think of their future. "Mom, what's for breakfast?" Lucy's voice broke the silence, pulling Sarah from her reverie. The little girl's innocent question reminded her of the responsibilities that never ceased, even in the midst of chaos. "Just some toast, sweetheart. We'll make it special today, okay?" Sarah forced a smile, but her heart was heavy. The prospect of the reward was tempting, yet the idea of parting with the rug felt like losing a piece of hope. After breakfast, she found herself pacing the living room, her mind racing with possibilities. Could she really hand over the rug, the very thing that could lift her family from the depths of despair? "Mom, can we go to the park later?" Ethan piped up, breaking her train of thought. His bright eyes sparkled with the promise of adventure, and Sarah's heart ached with love and guilt. "Of course, buddy. After school," she said, ruffling his hair, trying to keep her internal turmoil hidden from her children. The thought of returning to Montgomery's mansion haunted her as she prepared for the visit. She dressed carefully, wanting to make a good impression while also feeling the weight of the rug's legacy pressing down on her shoulders. The ride to the opulent estate felt surreal. The walls of the car seemed to close in as her thoughts spiraled. Upon arrival, the grandeur of the Montgomery estate took her breath away. The sprawling lawns were meticulously manicured, and the massive front doors loomed before her like a gateway to another world. Taking a deep breath, Sarah stepped out of the car, smoothing down her modest dress while trying to shake off the feeling of being an intruder in this world of privilege. As she approached the entrance, the door swung open, revealing Charles Montgomery himself, impeccably dressed and exuding a veneer of charm. "Ms. Johnson, welcome. I'm glad you could make it," he said, a smile playing on his lips. "Thank you for having me," Sarah replied, her voice steady despite the fluttering in her stomach. "Please, come in," he gestured, stepping aside. The interior was just as lavish as the outside. High ceilings, exquisite chandeliers, and walls adorned with paintings that seemed to tell stories of their own. Sarah felt small, a mere speck in this opulent universe. As they walked through the foyer, Charles initiated small talk, but Sarah's mind was elsewhere. "I see you've brought the rug," he said, glancing at the bundle tightly held in her arms. "Yes, I have," she replied, trying to sound confident. "But before we discuss the reward, I'd like to talk about its history." Charles's expression shifted slightly, curiosity mingling with a hint of annoyance. "What do you mean? It's just a rug, after all." "Just a rug?" Sarah echoed, her voice rising slightly. "This rug was discarded, left to rot in a landfill. It has a story, and I want to know it." Charles studied her for a moment, an inscrutable look passing over his face. "Very well, but let's discuss the reward first." Feeling the pressure of the moment, Sarah's heart raced. "I need to know who it belonged to. Why was it discarded?" Charles sighed, his charming demeanor faltering. "My family has had a lot of ups and downs over the years. That rug was a gift for my late brother. He had an eye for the finer things in life. And that rug was supposed to be a symbol of our family's wealth and status." "Supposed to be?" Sarah asked, sensing a deeper story lurking beneath his words. "Things aren't always what they seem," he replied, his voice low. "The rug is a reminder of what we lost. My brother was complicated." "Complicated how?" Sarah pressed, feeling a surge of determination. Charles hesitated, a flicker of vulnerability crossing his face. "He had his demons. We all have our burdens to bear." The air between them thickened, and for a moment, Sarah felt a strange connection to Charles. She understood loss, even if their experiences were worlds apart. "I've lost a lot too," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "My husband passed away, leaving me to raise our 2 children alone." Charles's gaze softened, and for the first time, his mask of indifference cracked. "I'm sorry to hear that. It must be incredibly difficult." "It is," she admitted, her heart racing as she began to feel the weight of her honesty. "But I can't just give you the rug without understanding its meaning. It's more than just a piece of fabric to me." Charles nodded slowly, a new respect forming in his eyes. "You're right. Perhaps it is time I shared more about my family's history." As they settled into a sitting room adorned with artifacts from the world's most prestigious places, Sarah felt a mixture of apprehension and curiosity. "What happened to your brother?" she asked gently. "He was involved in a tragic accident," Charles said, his voice distant, as if he were recalling a painful memory. "He was supposed to inherit the family estate, but everything changed in an instant." "What kind of accident?" Charles paused, searching for the right words. "He disappeared one night. No one knows what happened. The rug was meant to be a gift for his return, a gesture of reconciliation. A chill ran down Sarah's spine. The rug was more than an object. It was intertwined with grief and loss, a relic of a family's shattered dreams. "Do you think he's still out there?" Sarah asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Charles's expression hardened. "I don't know. Part of me wishes I could forget, but the memories linger. The rug, it's a reminder of what we've lost and the secrets that remain buried within this family." The room fell silent, the weight of their shared vulnerabilities hanging heavily in the air. Sarah felt a strange connection to this man who had once seemed so distant. The realization struck her. Perhaps they were both searching for something lost, something that could never truly be found. "Maybe we can help each other," Sarah suggested, her voice steadying. "I can return the rug, but I need to know the truth behind it. Maybe it can bring closure for both of us." Charles regarded her with a mixture of admiration and wariness. "You're more insightful than I gave you credit for," he admitted. "But I warn you, the truth can be a double-edged sword. Are you ready for what you might uncover?" Sarah met his gaze, feeling the weight of her own resolve. "I've already faced so much. I'm ready to uncover whatever lies ahead." With a newfound determination, Sarah realized that this journey was about more than just a rug or a reward. It was about confronting the past, understanding the complexities of human relationships, and possibly forging a connection that could change both their lives. As they sat in the lavish room, two souls bound by loss and longing, the rug, a piece of fabric that had initially seemed so trivial, transformed into a symbol of hope, a potential bridge between two disparate worlds. The evening of the charity gala arrived with an air of excitement and trepidation. Sarah stood before her mirror, adjusting the simple yet elegant dress she had borrowed from her sister. It was a deep navy, a color that complemented her dark hair and brought out the deep green of her eyes. She applied a touch of makeup, just enough to feel presentable, but not so much that it would feel foreign to her usual self. The thought of walking into a world of wealth and privilege made her heart race, filled with equal parts anticipation and discomfort. "Mom, you look pretty," Lucy chirped from the doorway, her small hands clasped together in delight. Ethan, peeking from behind his sister, nodded in agreement, his expression earnest. "Thanks, sweethearts," Sarah replied, her voice softening. "You two are my little cheerleaders." "Are you going to meet the rich people?" Ethan asked, his eyes wide with curiosity. "Something like that. Just remember, it's important to be kind, okay? No matter how fancy the place is," she reminded them, her thoughts flickering back to the opulence she had witnessed at Montgomery's mansion. As she stepped out of her home, Sarah took a deep breath, the crisp evening air filling her lungs. The gala was being held at the Grand Montgomery estate, adorned with twinkling lights and the sounds of laughter spilling out from within. Sarah parked her modest car at the edge of the driveway, feeling a pang of self-consciousness as she approached the entrance. A valet in a smart uniform greeted her, and she offered a nervous smile, her heart pounding as she handed over the keys. "Welcome, madam," he said with practiced politeness, his eyes barely meeting hers as he took the car. Once inside, Sarah was immediately enveloped by a whirlwind of elegance. The foyer was adorned with fresh flowers, and the soft glow of chandeliers lit the faces of the guests as they mingled, laughter ringing out like music. Sarah felt a wave of anxiety wash over her, but she reminded herself of the promise Charles had made. Part of the reward would benefit her family. "Sarah, you made it!" Charles's voice cut through the crowd, and he approached her with an easy smile, his suit impeccably tailored. She felt a strange mix of gratitude and caution as he reached for her hand, pulling her into the flow of the gala. "Thank you for inviting me," she replied, forcing a smile. "This is quite an event." "Just a little something to raise funds for the local shelter," he said, his eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "I'm glad you're here. You'll meet some wonderful people." As they moved through the crowd, Sarah was introduced to influential local business owners and philanthropists. The conversations flowed smoothly, but she felt like an outsider, desperately trying to keep up with discussions about stocks, art, and international travel. "I'm just a single mom," she thought, each introduction a reminder of her humble life. "Tell me, Sarah, how did you come to find that beautiful rug?" A woman with impeccably styled hair asked, her tone dripping with curiosity. "Oh, it was just..." Luck, I suppose, Sarah replied, forcing a laugh. Sometimes you find treasures in the most unexpected places. Indeed, the woman smiled, but her eyes scrutinized Sarah as if assessing her worthiness to be in the circle. As the night unfolded, Sarah caught glimpses of Charles as he navigated through the guests, his charm disarming everyone around him. Yet with each passing moment, she felt a growing unease. The conversations whispered around her began to shift, revealing cracks in the polished surface of the Montgomery family. "Did you hear about the Montgomery scandal?" A man murmured to his companion, just out of Sarah's earshot. The word scandal jumped out at her. Curiosity piqued despite her resolve to stay out of the family's affairs. "Rumor has it it's connected to that old rug," he continued, his voice low. "Something about a missing heirloom from years ago." Sarah's heart raced as she leaned in slightly, straining to catch more of their conversation. The mention of the rug sent her mind spinning. Was it possible that the rug she had found was tied to something more sinister? Before she could ponder further, Charles reappeared at her side, his presence like a warm shield against the cold truths lurking in the shadows of the gala. "Are you enjoying yourself?" he asked, genuine concern etched into his features. "I am, thank you. Just taking it all in," she replied, her voice steady despite the turmoil within her. "Good. I want you to meet someone." He led her to a small group gathered near the grand staircase. "This is Mrs. Henderson, a close friend of my family. She's been involved with the Montgomery estate for decades." "Nice to meet you, Sarah," Mrs. Henderson said, her eyes twinkling with warmth. "I've heard so much about you already. Charles speaks very highly of your character." "Thank you," Sarah replied, a blush creeping to her cheeks. "I'm just trying to do my best for my kids." As the conversation flowed, Sarah's mind drifted back to the rumors she had overheard. She needed to understand what lay beneath the surface of this seemingly perfect life. The rug was not just a piece of fabric, it was a key to something deeper, a thread woven into the history of the Montgomery family. After what felt like an eternity of small talk, Sarah excused herself, needing a moment to breathe away from the crowd. She stepped outside onto the terrace, where the night air was cool and refreshing. The stars twinkled above, a stark contrast to the glittering facade of the gala. Leaning against the wrought iron railing, she closed her eyes, letting the night wrap around her. "Lost in thought?" a voice interrupted her reverie. Sarah turned to see Charles standing beside her, a glass of champagne in hand. "Just trying to process everything," she admitted, glancing out over the beautifully manicured gardens. "It's a lot to take in." "I can only imagine," he replied, a hint of empathy in his tone. "This world can be overwhelming, especially if you're not used to it." "Not at all," she said, a small smile breaking through her thoughts. "But it's eye-opening. There's so much more to people than what meets the eye." "I agree," he said, his gaze steady on her. "And sometimes the things we hide are the most important of all." The weight of his words lingered in the air, a silent acknowledgement that there were shadows beneath the gleaming surface of the night. Sarah felt a shift, an unspoken understanding that they were both navigating complexities in their lives, albeit on different levels. "Charles, can I ask you something?" she ventured, her heart pounding. "Of course. What's on your mind?" She hesitated, the questions swirling in her mind. "The rug. It seems to hold more significance than just being a beautiful piece of art. There are rumors about its history." Charles's expression shifted slightly, a flicker of something unreadable passing over his face. "Rumors can be misleading," he said carefully. "People talk for various reasons." "Maybe," Sarah pressed gently, "but what if there's some truth in those rumors? What if it connects to something important from your family's past?" He regarded her for a moment, and she could almost see the wheels turning in his mind. "You're quite perceptive, Sarah. It's true that some family matters are best left undisturbed." "Why?" she asked, curiosity igniting her determination. "If the rug is connected to something significant, shouldn't it be brought to light? Shouldn't you know the truth?" Charles sighed, running a hand through his hair. "It's complicated. Some truths can be damaging, not just to the family, but to the people involved." Sarah felt a pang of frustration. But what if that truth could help someone? What if it could change lives? "Or destroy them," he countered, his voice low but firm. "Sometimes ignorance is a blessing." They stood in silence, the weight of their conversation heavy in the air. Sarah's mind raced, the pieces of the puzzle she had stumbled upon, spinning around her like a whirlwind. She was drawn deeper into the intrigue of the Montgomery family and the truth that lay hidden beneath the luxurious surface of their lives. "Sarah," Charles finally said, breaking the tension, "you have a good heart. I appreciate your concern, but some things are better left in the past." As the gala continued around them, Sarah felt a fire ignite within her. She couldn't let this go. The rug was more than a treasure to her. It was a connection to something larger, something that could unravel the secrets of the Montgomery family. She had to know the truth, no matter where it led her. With renewed determination, she took a deep breath and stepped back into the gala, ready to uncover the layers of intrigue that had begun to envelop her. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow through the grand windows of Montgomery Manor, Sarah felt both anticipation and trepidation coursing through her veins. The atmosphere inside the mansion was thick with opulence and unspoken histories, and the luxurious surroundings only intensified her awareness of the weight she carried. The Persian rug, now resting in the corner of the lavish living room, felt like a ticking time bomb, holding secrets that could shatter the facade of perfection the Montgomerys had built. "Sarah," Charles called, his voice smooth yet edged with an undertone of urgency. She turned to face him, noting the way his brow furrowed slightly as he approached. "I trust you're settling in," he continued, his charming smile faltering momentarily. "I hope the gala was everything you expected." "It was enlightening," Sarah replied carefully, her heart racing as she recalled the whispers she had overheard about the Montgomery family's past. "But I have questions. About the rug, about your family." Charles's expression shifted, his eyes narrowing as if he were bracing for a storm. "Questions can be dangerous," he warned, folding his arms across his chest. "You've seen how the world perceives us. We are all entitled to our privacy, aren't we?" Sarah swallowed hard, feeling a mix of defiance and vulnerability. "But the rug, it's more than just a piece of fabric, isn't it? It's a connection to your family's history. There's something you're not telling me." For a moment, silence hung between them, thick and palpable. Charles's gaze flickered to the rug, then back to Sarah, his expression revealing a hint of something deeper. A concern, perhaps? "You should be careful, Sarah. The past has a way of haunting those who dig too deep." "I'm not afraid of the past," she shot back, her voice steadier than she felt. "I need to know the truth for my own sake and for my children. If this rug holds the key to something significant, I can't just ignore it." Charles's defenses seemed to soften for a moment. "It's complicated," he said, exhaling slowly as if weighing his words. "My brother, Nathaniel, was involved in a tragic accident years ago. The rug was meant to be a gift for him, something to commemorate a milestone in his life. When he vanished, it became a painful reminder of our loss." "Vanished?" Sarah echoed, her curiosity piqued. "What happened to him?" Charles hesitated, the shadows of memory flickering across his face. "He was supposed to meet someone on the night of the accident. An argument ensued, and he left the house in a rage. After that, he was never seen again." His voice trembled slightly, revealing the cracks in his composed exterior. "We searched everywhere. My family, we thought he might have run away, but deep down, I believe something far worse happened." Sarah felt a chill creep down her spine. The rug, once a mere object of value, now loomed large in her mind as a symbol of unresolved grief and hidden truths. "And you think the rug has something to do with his disappearance?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Charles's jaw clenched. "It's possible. There are rumors, things I've heard over the years, whispers of betrayal, of family secrets that could destroy us if they ever came to light." He stepped closer, his eyes locking onto hers, earnest and pleading. "Promise me you won't pursue this any further. It's not just about the rug, it's about my family's reputation. And yours." "I can't promise that," Sarah replied, feeling her resolve strengthen. "This is more than just a rug to me. It's about understanding the past, your past and how it connects to mine. I'm not here to destroy you, Charles. I just want the truth." As she spoke, a flicker of admiration crossed his face, quickly replaced by a guarded expression. "You're a brave woman, Sarah," he said, almost begrudgingly. "But bravery can lead to destruction. I've seen it happen before." Just then Sarah's phone buzzed, shattering the tension between them. She glanced down and felt a jolt of anxiety as she read the message. "Stop digging. Leave the past buried." An anonymous warning that sent her heart racing. Who would send such a message, and why? "Is everything all right?" Charles asked, his voice laced with concern. "Just a message," she replied, her fingers trembling slightly as she typed back a quick response, trying to reassure herself. "It's nothing to worry about." But her mind raced with possibilities. Did someone know what she was investigating? Was it connected to the Montgomerys? Or was it a warning from someone who wanted to protect their own interests? "Sarah," Charles said, his tone shifting to one of urgency, "whatever you're getting into, it's dangerous. I can help you, if you let me. But you need to trust me." Trust. The word hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Sarah felt a swell of conflicting emotions. She wanted to believe him, yet the secrets hidden within Montgomery Manor seemed to wrap around her like a shroud. "Why should I trust you?" she challenged, crossing her arms defensively. "You've kept your family's history hidden. How do I know you're not just trying to protect your own interests?" "Because I understand loss," he replied, his voice low and earnest. "I lost my brother, and I've been losing parts of my family ever since. I want to find out what happened to Nathaniel as much as you do, perhaps even more. But I can't do it alone." Sarah studied his face, searching for signs of deception. The sincerity in his eyes seemed genuine, but she couldn't shake the feeling that there was more at play. "All right," she said finally, the decision weighing heavily on her. "But if we're going to do this, we do it my way. I need to know everything. No more secrets." "Agreed," Charles said, a flicker of hope igniting in his expression. "We can start by looking into the records from that night. I have some contacts who can help us." As they began to discuss their plan, the tension in the room eased, but Sarah's mind remained clouded with uncertainty. Did she truly want to unearth the past, even if it meant facing the darkness of the Montgomery family? And who had sent her that ominous warning? A sense of foreboding settled over her as they delved into their conversation, but mingled with that was a thrill of possibility. The rug, no longer just a remnant of someone else's life, had transformed into a conduit of connection, a thread binding her to a mystery that was as much about her own journey as it was about the Montgomerys. Their alliance forged in the dim light of the mansion, Sarah felt a flicker of determination igniting within her. She was ready to face whatever lay ahead, even if it meant confronting the ghosts that lingered in the shadows of the past. As the sun began to dip below the horizon, casting a warm golden glow over the Montgomery estate, Sarah stood in front of the grand mansion, her heart racing. She had spent the night wrestling with fear and determination, and now she was ready to confront Charles with the truth she had uncovered. The rug, which had initially seemed like a lifeline for her family, had transformed into a beacon of dark secrets and hidden pasts. Taking a deep breath, she approached the massive oak doors, each step echoing in her mind as she recalled the pieces of the puzzle she had gathered. She remembered the newspaper clipping about Charles's brother and the tragic accident that had shrouded the Montgomery family in mystery. The rug was not merely an object, it was a symbol of a family's betrayal, a connection to a past that had been buried deep. Inside, the mansion was as opulent as ever, but today it felt suffocating. Charles was in his study, a room lined with books that spoke of wealth and power, and Sarah felt an unwelcome sense of intimidation. She knocked gently, but the sound echoed in the stillness. "Come in," Charles's voice boomed from within. As Sarah entered, she was struck by the sight of him, a man who could command a room with his presence alone. He was seated behind his grand mahogany desk, his expression shifting from casual curiosity to surprise as he saw her face. "Sarah, I didn't expect you so soon. I hope you've reconsidered your decision about the rug." "I have reconsidered," she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. "But not in the way you think. I've found out some things that I need to discuss with you." Charles leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms. "What things?" "About the rug," Sarah began, her heart pounding. "It's not just a piece of art. It has a history, a dark history that involves your family." His eyes narrowed, and she could see the tension in his jaw. What are you talking about? Your brother's accident, she said, feeling a surge of courage. I found an old article that mentioned how he disappeared after a family argument. The rug was meant for him, wasn't it? You've been hiding the truth, and I think it's time you came clean. For a moment, silence enveloped the room. Charles's expression transformed from disbelief to anger. You have no idea what you're talking about, he snapped, his voice sharp. That was a long time ago, and I don't appreciate you digging into my family's past. I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm trying to understand, Sarah pressed, her resolve unwavering. The rug and the accident, they're connected. Someone in your family was involved, and I think you know who. He stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the hardwood floor. You think you can walk in here and demand answers? You think you can just piece together a narrative based on scraps of information? You don't know the first thing about my family. Then tell me, Sarah shouted, her voice breaking. Tell me what happened, because right now I feel like I'm standing on a precipice, and the only thing I have is this rug that connects our lives in a way I never imagined. Charles's expression softened for a fleeting moment, revealing a glimpse of vulnerability. It was supposed to be a gift for my brother, he confessed, his voice dropping to a whisper. But after the argument, he stormed off, and I never got the chance to give it to him. When he disappeared, it was like the rug became a ghost in our lives, a reminder of everything we lost. Then why not tell the truth? Sarah pleaded. Why let this lie fester? It's tearing you apart. Before he could respond, the door swung open, and a figure stepped into the room, causing both Sarah and Charles to turn in surprise. The man was tall, with familiar features that sent a jolt through Sarah. She felt as if the ground beneath her was shifting, her breath catching in her throat. Who are you? Charles demanded, his face paling as he recognized the intruder. I'm here to talk about the rug, the man said, his voice steady but tinged with emotion, and the truth that lies behind it. Mike! Sarah gasped, her heart racing. It couldn't be. Her late husband's estranged brother, thought to have died in a tragic accident years ago, stood before her. But how? Long story, Mike said, glancing at Charles before returning his gaze to Sarah. But I know what happened to your husband, and I know about the rug. Charles's expression hardened. You shouldn't be here. You have no right to come back and stir up old wounds. I have every right, Mike shot back, anger flashing in his eyes. This involves my family too. The rug isn't just a piece of art. It's a key to understanding everything that's gone wrong between us. Sarah felt her head spinning. What do you mean? She asked, desperate for clarity. The rug was meant to unite our families, Mike explained, taking a step closer. But it became a symbol of the divide, one that was deepened by the secrets we've all kept. I've spent years trying to piece together what happened that night. What night? Sarah pressed, feeling the weight of the moment. The night of the accident, Mike said, his voice lowering. The accident that took my brother and nearly destroyed yours. I found out that there were other people involved, people who didn't want the truth to come out. The rug was hidden to protect someone. Charles's face was a mask of fury and disbelief. You're lying. You don't know anything. I know more than you think, Mike replied coolly. The truth is messy, Charles. You've built your life on a facade, and it's crumbling right in front of you. Sarah felt the gravity of the situation pulling her in two different directions. The rug, once a glimmer of hope, now threatened to unravel everything she had fought for. The fragile stability of her family, her budding relationship with Charles, and her understanding of her own past. Why now? Sarah asked, her voice trembling. Why come back after all these years? Because I finally found a way to prove what really happened, Mike said, his eyes locking onto hers. And I need your help. Together we can uncover the truth and set things right. As she stood between the two men, one representing a past she was desperate to escape, and the other a future that felt uncertain, Sarah realized that the rug was not just a connection to the Montgomery family. It was a connection to her own history, her own pain, and the choices that lay ahead. Tell me everything, she said, her voice steadying. I want to know what really happened. I need to understand. And in that moment, Sarah knew that the path forward would not be easy, but it was a path she was willing to take. The rug, a symbol of hope and despair, now held the keys to not only her future, but the truth about her past. As the shadows deepened around them, she braced herself for the revelations that awaited, ready to confront the ghosts of their intertwined lives.